Howdy howdy, the name's Wasteland Joe, and today I'm going to show all you Wastelanders how to make a character sheet post-apocalypse style. Alright Wastelanders, let's get down to business. For those of you who are brand new to 5e or are unfamiliar with Fallout, I'll run through all the sections of the character sheet so that everybody can be on the same page. Starting right off, let's look over at Wasteland Joe's special stats. These stats right here determine what make you special. Strength determines your physical prowess and affects how much damage you deal with melee attacks or throwing objects. The skills Athletics and Melee are based off of strength. Perception determines how keen your senses are, and your situational awareness. The skills Archery, Energy Weapons, Explosives, Insight, and Investigation are all based off of perception. Endurance determines how resilient you are to the dangers of the wastes, and how much HP you have. The Big Gun skill is based off of endurance. Charisma determines your dashing good looks and charming personality. The skills Animal Handling, Deception, Intimidation, Performance, and Persuasion are all based off of Charisma. Intelligence determines how knowledgeable you are on a variety of subjects, and how many skills you're proficient in. The skills History, Medicine, Repair, Science, and Survival are all based off of Intelligence. Agility determines your hand-eye coordination and natural dexterity. The skills Acrobatics, Sleight of Hand, Small Guns, and Stealth are based off of agility. And luck determines your good fortune or misfortune, and how likely your weapons are to degrade. The gambling skill is based off of luck. To the right are the modifiers each stat gives you. 5 is the baseline, you get no modifier. Anything above or below 5 starts to apply these modifiers. Wasteland Joe's strength and endurance are both 7, and since 7 is 2 points higher than 5, he gets a +2 modifier for both. Down at the bottom, you can see he only has 4 luck, and since it's lower than 5, he has a -1 modifier. Over one more row are your saving throws. Certain environmental hazards and enemy abilities may force your character to make a saving throw to resist its harmful effects. When you first make your character, you get to choose which 2 saving throws you add your proficiency bonus to. There are 2 methods I like to use to generate a character's special stats. Method 1 is just a standard array. Take the numbers on the left and apply them to the stats of your choice and add your racial modifiers. Method 2 is where you roll for your stats. Roll a d4 for all 7 special stats, add 3 to the result of each d4, then add your racial modifiers. Now you might be asking, what stats are good for each character class? Well, in Fallout there are no character classes. The intent is for the player to come up with a character concept and choose stats, skills, and perks that support that concept. This allows a lot of flexibility when creating new characters. If you want to be a tanky frontline fighter with high charisma to inspire and lead your allies, just plug in your special stats and pick the skills and perks that support that concept. AC, or Armor class, represents how effectively your armor can protect you. In this tabletop Fallout RPG, AC is player-facing, which means that when the player is attacked, the player has to roll an armor save to see if the attack hits. Without wearing armor, your AC bonus is 0 by default, and the only way to gain an AC bonus is to either take cover or wear protective armor. This AC bonus determines what you add to your armor save. The difficulty check to resist an enemy's attack is 10 plus the enemy's stat and proficiency bonuses. You either have to meet or exceed the enemy's attack check to avoid taking damage. If you roll a natural 20 on your AC save, then the enemy suffers a fumble and has to skip their next turn. On a natural 1, however, the enemy has scored a critical hit. You suffer double damage, and your armor's quality degrades by 1. HP represents how much health you have, and below that are your resistances. PR, or physical resistance, negates things like knives, bullets, and claws. ER, energy resistance, negates electricity, lasers, and plasma. FR, fire resistance, negates fire, which often comes from explosive weaponry. RR, radiation resistance, negates how many rads you intake. Whenever you take damage, you apply the appropriate resistance and subtract that from the total. For example, let's say Wasteland Joe gets shot with a revolver and takes 7 physical damage. We're going to take this plus 2 physical resistance and subtract that, so now Joe only takes 5 physical damage. If Wasteland Joe stumbles onto a radioactive dump site and the area deals 15 rads per round, Joe doesn't take any rads because his radiation resistance is 15 and protects him entirely from the radiation. Your hit dice determine how much health your character gains each level. Wastelanders have a D8 for their hit die, and at level 1, you use the maximum of your hit die, 8, and add your endurance modifier, in this case a plus 2, for 10 HP at level 1. For levels 2 and 3, take the average of the hit die, which on a D8 is 5, and add your endurance modifier for each level. At level 3, your character's HP will max out, and the only way to increase your max HP afterwards is to increase your endurance stat. However, to compensate for this, every 4 levels your character will gain a level of toughness and a stat increase. Toughness represents your character becoming more accustomed to the grit of the wasteland. Each level of toughness gives you a plus 1 to your physical resistance, energy resistance, and fire resistance, which stacks with your armor resistances. A stat increase allows you to add a plus 1 to 2 different special stats, up to a maximum of 10. Speed determines how far you can move in 1 round, or when you take the dash action. Traits are unique abilities that provide both a positive and negative aspect to your character. Most traits are universal, but some are unique to certain character races. Over here are Wasteland Joe's tag skills. Each tag skill adds your proficiency bonus, which at level 3 is plus 2, with the special stat related to the skill. However, in this case, Wasteland Joe has the benefit of another bonus. The skills Persuasion and Science gain an additional plus 2 from his trait Good-Natured. Over here are the weapons that Wasteland Joe is carrying, along with their attack modifiers and how much damage they deal. In front of the weapon's name are the item's quality and storage values. Item quality represents how well crafted and maintained a particular weapon or suit of armor is. For armor, it determines your AC bonus, and for weapons, it determines how often the weapon jams and degrades. How often a weapon will suffer a critical failure is also based off of its quality. To determine how often a weapon will suffer a critical failure, take the weapon's quality and subtract it from 6. For this axe, which is quality 3, it will suffer a critical failure on a natural 3 or less on a D20 roll. When suffering a critical failure, the DM, or Overseer, will roll a D100 and add your character's luck modifier to determine what happens to your weapon. Down here is Wasteland Joe's inventory. Here we can see he is wearing junk armor quality 3, carrying a set of mechanics tools, a container of mentats with 4 doses inside, along with its addiction difficulty and duration, and a gas mask. And all the way down here is his utility belt. Every character starts with a utility belt to carry around their basic starter items. Each item you carry has a storage value, which is how many units of storage it takes up in your inventory. All these little numbers next to each item show how many units of storage each item takes up, and next to the utility belt is how many units it can carry, in this case 24 units. Adding all of these up, however, exceeds the storage capacity of the utility belt. At full capacity, you will either have to carry items in your hands or leave some of your loot behind. In this instance, Wasteland Joe can just choose to carry around his axe in his hands to save on space. And finally, we get to the fun stuff, the perks. Starting at level 1, and every time you level up, you get to add a new perk to your character. At first, your choices are limited, but every few levels, a new tier of perks will become available with higher skill and stat requirements. Wasteland Joe here is level 3, so he has 3 perks. In a later video, I'll go over what each perk does in detail. Now, there's a lot more to see out in the waste than just some wasteland scav. Advanced pre-war tech, radioactive monstrosities, I could go on. But stay tuned for more info from yours truly. I'm Wasteland Joe, and remember folks, don't feed the Yao Guai.